Let me say a hearty good morning to one and all. Welcome to this edition of To The Point. Today being Thursday, the 9th day of May 2024. Good morning, one and all. Those of you via social media platforms, good morning. Those of you, of course, viewing the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning. Those of you via GBN's webpage, good morning. Let me say good morning to you once again. And those of you listening, whether it's, of course, 105.5, 105.9, good morning. And those of you viewing GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20, once again, good morning, welcome. You know, on Thursdays, folks, we do, of course, entertain various departments within the RGPF. And this morning, we do have with us, of course, Inspector Allie Forsyth with us this morning. And, of course, and he's representing the drug squad. And we're talking this morning drug control. That will be our topic of conversation this morning, and certainly will be an interesting one. Let me go over and say good morning to Inspector Forsyth. Inspector Forsyth, good morning. Welcome, sir.
Pleasant good morning to you, GT, and also pleasant good morning to your listeners and your viewers.
All right.
On whatever platform they may be listening or viewing us on.
All right. So how are you doing this morning, sir? How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I'm doing wonderful. It's all thanks and praise to the Almighty for waking me up this morning and having me here with you. Well,
that's so good. You always have to give that thanks and praise. Our topic of conversation, as I mentioned in the intro, we're talking drug, controlled drug per se. So not only drug control, but controlled drugs, of course, that are controlled by laws and so forth in terms of course, whatever individuals may think about wanting to do with it, and they may think, hey, I'm hearing the word controlled drug. Maybe for that listener or viewer out there that's thinking along the road. When we say controlled drug, what we need from a law enforcement point of view when we say controlled drug?
Yes, so from a law enforcement point of view, right, when you speak about drugs and drug control, right, first of all, there is an act, an act actually that regulates drug use and drug misuse, and that act is the Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act.
Okay.
Right, and according to the Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act, a controlled drug is defined as any narcotic drug which is listed in Schedule 1 of the Act, any psychotropic substance which is listed in Part 2 of the first schedule of the Act, and any other substance which is listed in Part 3 of Schedule 1 of that Drug Control Act as well, right? In layman terms, one may want me to break it down a bit.
Yes, I'm certainly just because we hear these high terminologies, and the individual they would probably want to hear it in that regular conversation.
Yes, yeah. So in layman terms, a controlled drug basically refers to drug use which is regulated by law, right? It deals with the regulation of its sales, its distribution, manufacturing, and so on and so forth.
All right. So could someone deem a drug that needs to be prescribed? Could that be part of controlled drug also?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Let's say a controlled drug, but in order for an individual to have use of that particular drug as it is, even though it may offer some good to you to a point, but you can only obtain that through a doctor having it prescribed to you. Could that is also part of under the Act in that way?
Yes, definitely. Actually, the Part 2 of the second schedule mainly speaks about these things, right? That's why they call it the psychotropic drugs. So a lot of the drugs nowadays, which they call synthetic drugs and so on,
all right.
Those are actually made by the modification of naturally occurring drugs. Like you have the what they call heroin, right? And heroin is made from the chemical processing of opium. Right, and opium is used to make morphine.
Yes,
and morphine is used to treat severe pain and so on and so forth. So you have these naturally occurring drugs which have the beneficial part to it, but the criminals, they would use it and modify it to make it into something that can harm the body, and so that way the regulation comes in.
All right. Because, sometimes we hear that, individuals, they go do the under-the-counter thing. They need a particular drug. They know the use of it, but they care less to go to a doctor or so to have that, have it dispersed to them in the proper procedure. And, so that is wrong. So if an individual thinking, I could probably go to a pharmacist and just get something because the pharmacists know me or whatever, that is wrong in terms of doing that. Pharmacists should not even practice that also.
Yes, definitely. Pharmacists should not even self-endeavor to think about it, As a matter of fact, drugs in itself, without just looking at it from the law enforcement part of it, right? Drug itself fall under the Ministry of Health.
Yes.
And the law enforcement part is where the police come in, right? And the minister is actually the one that is responsible for regulating it. So there are people within the Ministry of Health, inspectors, that are responsible from time to time to go around and regulate the pharmacies and so on throughout Grenada.
All right. And
monitor their storage, what they have in stock, what they have used, those that may have reached the expiry date, and they would actually regulate the destruction, and proper records have to be made.
All right.
To that,
Let's get into the conversation of course, our neck of the woods, Grenada. Drugs that are more commonly used, or drugs that are troubling, of course, for the department, you would say, in Grenada.
In Grenada, our situation is similar or same to the other OECS countries, and as a matter of fact, our part of the region.
Yeah.
Right? And the most commonly used one is the cannabis, which we often refer to as marijuana, weed. Then we have the cocaine.
Yeah.
Right? It can either be, they commonly use it in either the powder form, by snorting it and so forth, or they may use it in the crack form, which they would smoke.
Yeah.
And a distant third creeping in is what we have is the ecstasy.
All right. So those are most of the most common ones. Why was it deemed necessary to have these drugs deemed as controlled drugs in particular? The marijuana, the of course the cocaine, as you mentioned, and so forth. Why was it deemed to have them deemed as controlled drugs?
Well, the wisdom in it is because of the effects, right? Because of the effects. Anything which is used in excess or used in ways which is not prescribed to be used can lead to side effects, right? And controlled drug, the cocaine, the marijuana, they can have health impact, which can affect one's mental capacity, right? You can have impact on the economy. You can have impact on the economy in terms of finances and so on. Very key finances, important finances, which can come into the government coffers, would now be diverted to criminal elements and sometimes organized crime. Those finances may even go outside of Grenada, right? There is social disruption, right? These drugs can lead to increase in crime rate, violence, as well as disruptions within communities with rival gangs, rival groups, fighting for profits, fighting for territory, and fighting for control.
All right, great. I mean, it's always concerning to find out, and it's like to know that, the most common ones that you said, the marijuana and so forth. Now, in a Grenadian economy, these drugs, these significant concerns that as it relates from the of course, should I say, the drug squad and so forth. How concerning is these drugs in terms of the impact it's making on the, should I say, the negative impact it is creating on society? How concerned are the drug squad and so forth as it relates to that negative impact that is impacted on us?
The drug squad is very concerned. We are very concerned, not just for in terms of us being members of the police and it's a job, we're doing our job, but we're concerned because we are concerned for the society, we're concerned for the nation, the betterments of our youths, and so on, for the future. So we make it our duty to get up every morning and go on and fight the fight. Not just to get the drugs out of the street, but in terms of keeping our country safe.
All right. Now, in relations to of course, as you said, the negative impact it's causing to our society and so forth, What would you like to tell the individual that are having in their thought or want to give the consideration of wanting to, be suppliers of these illegal drugs and so forth? And, what sort of advice you'd like to throw to them and tell us and say, hey, these are the do's and don'ts you think we should not be getting, or reasons why they should not be getting into the usage, or even the wanting to be someone who pushes that, as we would say in local terms. What kind of advice would you like to throw to them and relate to that?
Well, I would definitely upfront tell them to think twice.
Yeah.
Definitely think twice. People may have different situations, different challenges, different reasons, or different forms of motivation as to why they may get involved in that. But there is always an alternative. There is always someone you can speak to. You understand? There are instances where you might have people who are breadwinners in some families, and they get tied up in the drug trade. And as a result, they may get locked up by the police, they may be sentenced. And then what happens to your family at the end of it?
Yeah.
What happened to your 2 young kids that have to go to school? And the mother who is the housewife, and she is unemployed. When you're incarcerated for the next 10, 15 years, what will happen to your kids that you left behind?
That's so true.
Behind.
All right. We drew for a break, of course, Inspector Forsyth. Let's take that break. We come back. When we come back, I want us to get into the discussion of course, the issue that relates to the drug use in Grenada, especially not only the use, but also the misuse of it in Grenada. So let's have a discussion on that when we come back. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us, folks.
In honor of the Grenada 50th Independence, the Royal Grenada Police Force Band presents the second annual Mother's Night Out. Mother's Night Out. The concerts all going down on Sunday, May 12th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center. Featuring live from TNT. It's crazy.
Time to come. America will have a black president.
John King.
How many more?
June Lodge. Together with the Hitman Inspector, Valine Ned, Samantha Dixon, Alex Phillip, Shane, Innocent, General PP, Kareem, Alexis, Ron Barry, the African Man, and much more. Dress code elegant. It's Mother's Night Out, the Grenada Trade Center from 5 p.m. on Sunday, May 12th. Lots of giveaways and prizes to be won. Champagne and roses on entry. You don't want to miss this amazing experience for mothers. Your tickets only $70 and are available from Gittins Pharmacy in Grand Dance and Grenville, Grenadian Optical, the Police Bandhouse, Police Canteen. Make this a date for mothers.
Welcome back once again, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point for today, Thursday, the 9th of May. And with me this morning, representing the RGPF, the Drug Squad Unit, or how you want to refer to this morning. We have Inspector Forsyth with us this morning. Inspector Forsyth, welcome back to this segment once again. And I mentioned before when we were about to take the break, I want us to get into a bit of discussion as it relates to the issue of use and misuse of drugs, especially the one that are considered, controlled drugs. Let's get a bit of your insight, of course, what you being part of the drug squad and so forth. I'm assuming you've been going around the island and you see what happens to individuals who use drugs. And individuals also who misuse drugs for various reasons. It may even go back to drugs that are considered, as we spoke about, drugs it related to that are prescribed. There are individuals who use them and also misuse them. Let's get some insights on that this morning.
Yes, interesting as you mentioned, drugs that are prescribed.
Yeah.
Right. One of the developing trend that is taking place worldwide is as it relates to the prescribed medication.
Yes.
Right. Especially as we spoke about the painkillers, the morphine and so on. They have their purpose as it relates to treating pain. But in recent time, what the new trend that has been observed worldwide is that incarcerated persons, be it at the mental institution, be it at some correction facilities and so on, the access these people have to the high drugs, like maybe the cocaine and so on, is limited. So what has been noticed that has been taking place is that these incarcerated person has from time to time, it's like they would complain about having pain and so on and so forth, and they may be administered painkillers, and these painkillers now can be crushed, it can be dissolved, and they would snort it in some cases, drink it in some cases, in terms of just trying to get that feeling of them actually taking the actual cocaine or the actual substance. Because one of the side effects of these drugs is that they're very addictive. So these patients become very addictive. So they end up at the mental institution and they have that craving for it. The closest thing they may get may be a painkiller. And they may, by some way, divert the attention of the administrators.
I have more pain than I usually
more pain than anything else, and they misuse it. Misuse it for another purpose than it is prescribed for. So a lot of attention has to be paid in that vein. That is a new trend we've seen happening, right? The regular smoking of marijuana, the regular things you see on the street, all of this is misuse. Because it's not prescribed for that, and these people does not have the proper permission, the proper documentation or so on from be it a registered doctor or be it from the minister or so on to actually administer that, be it by themselves or by someone else administering it to them.
In a Grenadian economy, of course, we speak, of course, in a generalized sense. In a Grenadian economy, our Grenadian society, how concerned it is for individuals, especially the misuse of those controlled drugs in Grenada and a Grenada economy. How concerned is the drug squad or just the RGPF in general in terms of drug use by individuals within Grenada? How concerned is that for you, especially when it comes to the misuse of it?
It's very concerning. It's very, very concerning because, like I said, it affects the economy. It affects the economy. A lot of those finances and so on, which can be generated into the government coffers, be it by legitimate sales, through legitimate prescriptions, and so on and so forth. A lot of these money is being diverted onto the black market. And most of the time, we're not manufacturers. The manufacturers and the producers come from outside. So all these monies which is made, it goes out. And at the end of the day, our facilities, be it the hospital, be it whatever other rehabilitation facilities that we have, they are becoming overwhelmed, and they are overwhelmed because almost every other day they would have new entrants as it relates to people that may be suffering from some mental breakdown, people that may be hallucinating, and so on. As a matter of fact, another thing that is concerning about it is it can lead to corruption. It can. A lot of these drug pushers, drug smugglers, and so on, in order to ply their trade and to get their stuff in and to get it in easy, they may try to corrupt law enforcement. They may try to corrupt the judicial system. And this in itself is very concerning because it can lead to a breakdown of law.
All right. What about the statistic that reigns in Grenada? What kind of statistic it is? I'm not sure if you have that information to share with us this morning as relates to, individuals in this country that are, of course, in terms of the who've been using and misusing these drugs. What kind of statistic that if there's any information you could share with us in terms of statistics related to that?
Well, as it relates to age group or age range, right? It has been observed by us in the drug squad within the Royal Grenada Police Force. The main age group for involvement in drug, be it drug activity or the misuse of drug, is the age range between 21 to 35. That sort of youthful age. That is the main recurrent decimal, as many would say. and it could be various factors that can be resulted from that. It could stem from maybe unemployment, it can stem from maybe broken down home system, it can stem from the social media and so forth. Various things can lead to that.
Right.
But that is the main issue.
Is there a serious impact in terms of the misuse of controlled drugs within our school system here in Grenada? Is there any impact on that? Serious information related to that in Grenada? Are you seeing having any information relating to the serious impact of drugs in schools here in Grenada, especially controlled drugs?
From what I've noticed is that there is instances, little pockets of the use of the marijuana.
Yes.
The misuse
in
of the
schools
marijuana.
In Grenada. Mm-hmm.
In some of the schools in Grenada, right? In terms of harder drugs, I would definitely say no. Mm-hmm. You understand? There is a trend that we see with what they call the marijuana fudge.
Yeah.
You understand? Somehow those kids become interested in that, right? There is pockets of smoking of marijuana and so on and so forth, but it isn't significant. I mean, at least one child smoking marijuana is very concerning.
It's concerning. It could be one too much.
It's one too much.
In the Grenadian economy is one too much. Yes,
but it's not overwhelming. It's not overwhelming. I must say that the school system have been trying. The Royal Grenada Police Force has been trying. The Community Relations Department have been doing an excellent job in trying to always educate persons and so on as it relates to that. But as it relates to our school system, I would say based on what I'm seeing that the various stakeholders are doing what they have to do in ensure that proper education and ensuring that is that remains at a very, very minimal level.
All right. So there is concern, but it's not of a significant concern in terms of the usage of drugs within schools in Grenada.
No, as it is, no. But it has to be monitored. It has to be monitored because as you wink on it can just creep. It can just creep.
So true. Now let's get into the conversation as relates to offences. The offences of drug use in Grenada, especially when it comes to controlled drugs. And we're still going to put in the prescription drugs also within it because it also plays a part. Yeah. You understand? In terms of the offences that you've been seeing as it relates to that, what if someone get themselves involved in drug? How do you deem the offences? The penalties also involved for individuals who wanting to think of it's probably a get out of the poverty that I may be living, may I get into drugs and so forth. What are the significance in terms of the offences and the penalties as it relates?
Okay. Well, the most common offense is that of possession.
Yes.
Right? Possession of a controlled drug. And possession of a controlled drug, it can either be actual possession, like you having it in your person and in your bag that you're carrying and so on, as well as it can be constructive possession.
All right.
Right? In that it may be in the possession of someone else, but this is under your control,
right,
or they are under your control.
So within your home, or somebody can have it in your home.
Within your home, or it could be in a neighbor home. Mm-hmm. You might give a neighbor it to hold for you, and so on and so forth, because the police know you as a reputable or notorious drug man. Mm-hmm. And police may be in your place every Monday morning, so you may have situations like that. But the drug at the other person's possession is not for the person whims and fancy to use, because they could only interfere with that under your direction.
All right.
So.
All right. So as it relates to that, I'm trying to understand that in terms of when you come to the offences part of it. If I am deemed to be a drug dealer, or someone thinks I'm a drug dealer, and I give that drug to a family member of mine who doesn't live within the same household as I am, how does the offence relates there?
Well, the police will do the investigation.
Yeah.
Right? A person is innocent until proven guilty. Right? That the individuals would have their day in court. The police will do the investigation. The person who they find it with that is where the investigation will start first.
And they are the one that will bear the consequences, I would assume.
Well, it depends on how the investigation go. They may be cooperative.
Yeah. And
telling you, straight up, hello, officer, look, this stuff is here, yes. I do not know what is in that bag. My cousin come, he gave me a black bag. He tell me hold that bag for him. He go along the road to come back.
Yeah.
and so on and that, right? But in terms of proving the offense of drug offenses, two of the main thing is that it has to actually be a drug, and knowledge. Knowledge is very key. You have to prove that the person had some knowledge or so on as to what there.
All right.
Right, and likewise the police will as well interview the person who that individual see, give them that item to hold as well, and they may just end up getting trapped.
All right. Because, sometimes I hear from time to time, we hear announcements being made, individuals are caught in drugs because they were driving along the nation's road and somehow it was in the possession of the particular vehicle, and you hear both individuals got arrested. So we're wondering in terms of what kind of penalties the individual could come across. You just offering a right to an individual that may have a bag that contains drugs. You may not have the knowledge of it. You understand? But we driving along. I know this individual. He flags me for a ride. I give him a ride. We've been stopped. How does the offense and penalties occur in that particular interest?
Okay, one of the most stiffest offense or the most stiffest charge one can get is that of trafficking of a controlled drug.
Yes.
Right, and trafficking of a controlled dog does not necessarily mean someone may have it traveling with it. Trafficking of a controlled drug, it can occur as a result of possession. Yeah. It can be you're traveling with it. It could be you're selling it. It can be you're producing it. Trafficking of a controlled drug stems mainly from a quantity, a trafficable quantity. Right. Once you have a trafficable quantity, you can get charged for that.
All right.
Right, and as you just said about the two persons in the vehicle, is a similar situation to the police finding it at the house.
Yes.
Right. Most of the time, sometime in that vehicle, an individual might say, "Officer, this is mine. The guy just give me a ride," and so on and so forth. But sometimes it may be best to leave it up to the court, because you as a police officer may take the person's word for it and let the other person go. And then when they have that person have their day in court, they now would come and say they know nothing about it. Yeah. The person who the stuff belonged to the police let them go. The police let them go. Another common offense we have is that of possession with intent to supply to another. There is also the issue of cultivation of a controlled drug.
Yes.
And that has to do with planting and growing cannabis and so on. There is also offenses as it relates to children.
Yeah.
Right, and according to the Drug Act, children is usually classified into two categories. You have a child. A child refers to a person that is under the age of 14, and a young person, a person who is 14 years and above, but under the age of 18. So between 14 and 18, so 14 and 17 point something. Right, as it relates to penalties, one can either be charged summary or indictable.
Yeah.
Right, for the summary charges, you can be given a custodial sentence, as well as you can be fined of up to as high as $250,000.
Yeah.
And for indictable, it can go as high as up to $500,000.
Yeah.
Right,
and that's just for mere possession of a controlled drug?
Yeah, it can be possession, or it can be another offense. It's up to the discretion of the police officer who is doing the charge. We'll also take into consideration as to the quantity of
so
the substance.
The more of the quantity, I'm assuming there will be more. The penalties will increase, or the charges as it relates to that.
Right, most likely. Now, when these matters come to court, one of the things the magistrate or the judge will look at is what they call the street value.
Okay.
So the street value and the weight of it will give you a estimated street value. So the greater the street value, the greater the weight, then the higher likely that you will get a greater fine. You will get a greater fine, right?
How do the police come up? It always worries me a wee bit, or concerns me a wee bit when I hear the, I'm hearing a costing comes up in terms of the quantity that is found from individuals. You understand? We found 1 kilo, 5 kilos, 10 kilos from an individual bearing a value of $1 million. I always seem to wonder how do the police themselves come up with a valuation for that. If that could be explained a wee bit.
Right. Good. As a matter matter of fact, that is one of the most pressing debates that goes on in court. Every time there is a major drug fine or major drug bust, with lawyers in trying to so vigorously fight for bail for their client. Actually, earlier on this week, there was actually a lawyer actually holding his head when he heard the street value of the of the substance. Right now, the Royal Grenada Police Force, the drug squad, right, our estimated street value is a value that would have came about as a result of intensive work, intensive studies, intensive surveys that was done by a team of luminaries, not only in Grenada, not only regionally, but internationally, which was spearheaded by the United States, the DEA. Right? So they are the ones that established this estimated street value. And this is what we use today, right? As a matter of fact, a lot of the lawyers usually complain about our street value, but the offer is always up for them. You know, nothing is avoiding or preventing those lawyers from coming together as a group. As a matter of fact, the Bar Association have a very vibrant and young president, Mr. Francis Paul. You know, they can come together and get some organizations or so on, let them do their surveys, let them do their groundwork, and let these experts come together, and they can come with a good proposal and bring it to the courts bring it to the magistracy, and they can come up with their estimated street value. And the legal system could look at our street value and look at theirs and decide which one
weigh out the comparison.
Yes, which one they may go with, or they can make a compromise and let's meet down the center. You know, but sometimes the lawyers may say, well, their experts is the drug sellers on the street. They are the experts because they are the ones who know exactly what the price is.
That's true in terms of the local market.
But the court system now would not really recognize them as experts because where are they training? Where are the certification?
And it's illegal is what they're doing.
And it's illegal what they're doing,
All right, interesting to know.
So just to give you a little idea as to some of the street value. Right, as it relates to cannabis, the regular cannabis, what some may call, Vinci weed, as we say, right, 1 gram of that is equivalent to $5 EC.
Yes. Is that related to that little roll that you see in the
right? Yes, the little ball they may call it. Right now they have a new style. They may call it a dime bag in those little Ziploc bags.
Interesting to know.
One pound is estimated as $2,268. Right. We also have the Kush or the Creepy, what they call the Creepy, which is a South American cannabis, and that one is more potent than the regular Vincentian weed or even serve the local marijuana, and that one pound of it is estimated at $9,000. So when you compare 9,000 to 2,268, right? As it relates to cocaine, with the estimates that we have, 1 kilo of cocaine is equivalent to $100,000 Eastern Caribbean currency. So when you hear the police get 5 kilos and we estimate it at $500,000, the estimate is $100,000 per kilo.
Per kilo. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Interesting to note. We drew for a break. Let's take it again, folks. We're coming back with more discussion. For you listeners and viewers out there, if you do have a question or two as relates to controlled drug, there's something that's been bubbling in your mind as relates. You can also give us a call, 435-2041. You can also call us via the WhatsApp. And assuming that, of course, Inspector Forsyth should be able to answer your questions. We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back.
Get ready to witness the ultimate showdown of athleticism and adrenaline. The Whitsuntide Games are back, and they're bigger and better than ever before. Join us on Saturday, May 18th at the electrifying Kirani James Athletic Stadium. The action kicks off bright and early with the morning session starting at 9 a.m. sharp. Watch the best local and regional athletes go head-to-head in a battle for glory and supremacy. But wait, the excitement doesn't stop there. As the sun sets, the evening session ignites at 4 p.m. promising even more heart-pounding action and jaw-dropping performances. Secure your spot now. Finish line A, lower and upper, $30. Finish line B, lower and upper, $25. General admission, main stand, $20. Get them now at gotofed.com. Mark your calendars and be there to cheer on your favorites as they strive for victory at the Whitsuntide Games 2024. Sunshine Promotions is rolling out the red carpet for all mothers. It's a night of love. Saturday, May 11th at the dazzling Radisson Crown Ballroom. The celebration kicks off at 8 p.m. with the show starting at 9 p.m. Promising a night filled with joy, music, and appreciation. Prepare to be swept off your feet with performances from the legendary Mikey Spice. Mikey Spice. The dynamic Lion Paw, the sensational Valine, and the soulful Laura Lisa. It's a lineup that promises an unforgettable night. Get your limited early bird tickets for just $100 EC and ensure you're part of this grand salute to mothers. Tickets available at Giddens Pharmacy in St. George's, Wall Street, Wharf and Grenville, Chucky's Bar, Cass Unisex Boutique, Quick Stop, Pierce Barbershop in Victoria, Calico Shopping Center in Sates, Rena Mills in Carriacou, Crown Collection, Health Plus Pharmacy Grenville, Heather's Boutique, and gotofed.com. Stay connected with Sunshine Promotions on Facebook and Instagram for all details. It's a night of love. Saturday, May 11th at the Radisson Crown Ballroom.
If you don't add multi-X to your Playway bets, then you're definitely missing out on bigger winnings. The NLA has added 7X to the multi-X draws. Imagine playing your favorite Playway number or symbol for $10 with multi-X added. Then, wow! 7X is drawn. You win bigger. Not just $240, but $240 multiplied by 7. Whoa! That's $1,680. 7X added for a limited time only. Add multi-X to your Playway bets every day, 3 times per day, Monday to Saturday, for chances to win bigger. Not only free plays or winnings multiplied by 3 or 5, but winnings multiplied by 7 too. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, make your dreams come true.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Once again, it's To The Point here on Classic Radio and GBN TV. Inspector Forsyth, welcome back. Inspector, I want us to get on we've been into our conversation again before we start taking the calls. The importation of controlled drugs. From your statistics or information that you may have to share with us, how is drugs getting into our neck of Grenada, our little island of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Islands of Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martin? How is this thing really done?
Right. So, well, most of the drugs that we have coming into Grenada, right, most of it either comes from North America to some extent.
We don't make cocaine in Grenada, more or less.
Most of the cocaine comes from South America. South America, you have Venezuela, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia. Right, and then we have some of the marijuana may come from Trinidad, as well as our neighbor St. Vincent, and so on and so forth. Right, within the smaller islands, the trade between Grenada and St. Vincent, most of it done by those little go fast. Yes, they go fast, the fishing vessels and so on. You know, the person's island hop, and they just, Grenada to Carriacou, or Carriacou to St. Vincent is a stone throw away. So true. You know, yeah. So those little fishing boats, a lot of it come up through that, right? There is a trend that, as well as it relates to the synthetic stuff, or those that may come in from North America and so on. There is an issue as it relates to those vessels, merchant vessels, cargo vessels. A lot of it may come in barrels and so on. They may be hidden in food products, be it cat food, be it detergents, and so forth. There is a small amount that is also might be coming in through human couriers. Person may ingest them and travel by the aircrafts and so on. But that amount is a smaller amount, a lesser amount. Okay. Right. In terms of the cocaine, Grenada basically is a transshipment point. So most of the cocaine and so on, which may enter our shores, our territories, is not for local consumption. Our market is not that vast, so most of it just come through and go up the road, be it up to North America or Europe and so forth. So most of it may come up. There is a trend as it relates to trawlers, fishing trawlers and so on, may bring it up. There's also those Venezuelan pirogues and so forth. You know, a lot of it may come up through that format, and most of it may not even land on the shore, but instead they may transfer it to other vessels on the high seas, and carry it up the road, and carry it up. Right. What one may notice is that although there is less amount of seizures, or there is less shipment of cocaine and so on in our territory, what is happening whenever there is a seizure or whenever there is a shipment, it's a large quantity. So although there is less frequency of shipment, but whenever a shipment happens, it's large quantities.
In terms of whatever gets seized itself a large nature.
Yes.
Right, so that is small portions.
And what is being moved, So it's mainly on the high seas, not much via the air route.
All right. Now, sentencing is always something of concern. Of course, we'd like to know. I am held with a small. You mentioned some of the packaging idea a while ago. Slipped me a bit. How does the sentencing occur for individuals, especially in terms of quantity? How does the sentencing roll off of that? I mean, of course, I understand they may have to go through the court system, but how does the sentencing apply?
Right. Well, as it relates to sentencing, recently, as of 2019, the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, right, the chief judge would have drafted and created what we call the sentencing guidelines, right? And the sentencing guidelines come about after studying the 9 OECS countries. It would have been realized that we have different offenses, different maximum sentences, and so on, in an effort to kind of standardize everything and to have it under one umbrella and have similar sentences for similar offenses. The sentencing guidelines was created.
All right.
Right, and the sentencing guideline focuses on the major illicit drug problem that we have, and that is cocaine and cannabis.
All right,
cocaine and cannabis, and the sentencing guideline basically considers the weight.
All right.
Right, it considers the weight of the substance, and the weight. Depending on the weight, it is classified into different categories. You have category 1 to category 4. Category 1 being the most serious or the most significant. Right, and in terms of cocaine, category 1 is classified from 20 kilograms and above.
All right.
Right, and cannabis, it's 882 pounds and above. Category 2, 5 kilogram to 20 kilogram to less than 20 kilogram of cocaine, and cannabis is less than 882 pounds. And then you have category 3, and then you have category 4, which is the smallest category, which is up to 100 grams of cocaine, and cannabis up to 2.2 pounds.
All right. Interesting to know. A question I have, we know there's conversation going on right now in terms of the legalization and so forth of marijuana and so forth here in Grenada, or decriminalization, as some folks would say it in that way, not really legalization, but more of the decriminalization. How concerned is especially the drug squad, the RGPF, in concerns of this? And is the RGPF is a major player in terms of the discussion? If you could answer that for me.
Yes, the RGPF is a major player in that discussion. As a matter of fact, Assistant Commissioner of Police, Mr. Vanny Cohen, he's the RGPF representative on the committee that deals with looking at the decriminalization, the decriminalization of the cannabis. You understand? As it relates to what will happen then And after that, I mean, that is beyond our control in the drug squad. As it is now, it is illegal. So we will do what we have to do to enforce the law, because that is our job. And when we get to that stage, be it legalization or decriminalization, then we will do what the law says we have to do at that point in time.
All right.
You know, but the discussion is a welcome one. You know,
a concern that I have, because of course we get also those of the major questions. So I'm just pulling some questions over my mind now, and I just want to get your feeling of it. We know marijuana is still not a legal drug in Grenada, for instance, and from time to time, I'm not sure if the police are so forth are noticing, but I've noticed folks are becoming a state of mind now where, because of the conversation that are taking place, they get the interest that maybe I could do what I want. And I'm driving through the tongue of St. George sometimes, and I'm noticing individuals are standing in public and having a smoke, and seem to not fear that they're going to be running into problems. What are the concerns with that? I'm sure, you know, the drug squad and RGBF have been hearing these concerns. How concerned is that as relates to that? I know, of course, Inspector, you have heard about that. You maybe have individuals who have seen, you may have seen, and you know, and it worries me to a point, because sometimes you see individuals, hey, I know if I'm seen with a smoking a weed, per se, I could get myself into trouble. But there are seen individuals who seem to not to care anymore for some reason or the other.
Yeah, well, just to say from the drug squad point, our focus is on the big players,
the big quantity,
the big quantity, the drug smugglers, not much the ordinary man on the
but
street.
But still, it's illegal to do
with one spliff, you know, from the drug store. But in terms of the Royal Grenada Police Force, it is a concern. Like I say, it is still illegal on the books. You know, it's not right. And if someone is smoking a marijuana in public or anywhere else, as a matter of fact, that person is committing a crime and they're committing an offense.
Yeah.
You know, to an extent, some officers may have the first officer on the street who encounters that person. You know, it's his discretion. You know, he may say the whole cannabis thing is becoming a global conversation.
Yes.
You know, before sooner rather than later, it will be here. You know, it will be here. So it's up to him and his discretion how he may choose to deal with it. You know, a lot of these people may be just misguided. Misguided. You can talk to them, you know, reasonably, explain to them, well, look, you're smoking in a public place. There is kids around. There is other persons around who you smoking that is offending them. There are a number of people who cannot even take the scent of a cigarette, much less a marijuana scent. Some people have lung problem and you don't know, you know, from the time a fire is burning within the area, they have to get out of that village and go somewhere else, you know. It's a conversation that has to continuously keep taking place, but it's illegal and the police have to enforce the law. But it's a lot to do with discretion, and the discretion is the first officer on the scene, and he's the first officer that deals with that case.
You know, it just got to mind, because I always thought about the societal impact that it will have. You understand? As you mentioned, there are individuals who have health-related issues, who may not be able to, as a regular bush burning affects them. You understand? And sometimes in public, individuals are smoking the marijuana, or even just a regular cigarette, so it feels offensive to an individuals who in their own personal space. You know, so I just always thought about that scene, as I'm wondering if, you know, if the RGP it's just have a concern about it at all. Okay? I've seen it's escalated to a high level. You know, it's escalated. I've seen individuals driving and doing the same thing, and I'm wondering, sometimes I'm noticing police officers there, and like nothing has been done about it. You know,
as a matter of fact, that in itself, just seeing someone smoking a marijuana spliff in itself, one will be amazed at what can be gathered from that.
Yes.
The amount of intelligence that can be gathered from that, because that person definitely have to get it from somewhere.
Yes.
And who they get it from may get it from someone.
Yes.
You know, so someone just smoking one spliff, and a police officer, instead of turning a blind eye but having a discussion with that person, you might surprise you take down a big international drug organization, a drug kingpin.
Right.
So it makes sense to have that chat with that person, engage that person, and the discretion of the police officer, if he feels that he would want to charge that person and so on, you know, as it relates to that.
All right. We do have a caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Hi, good morning to you, and good morning to Officer Forsyth, I think I heard. You mentioned something there that struck a nerve with me, because I've always, wondered what would happen when the day comes, which seems as though it's just a matter of time, when it is decriminalized. And for instance, in Corinth, we have this big housing development there. Lots of apartments, so many floors, people next door to each other. And for the same reason that you explained of people not being able to tolerate this thing. And your next door neighbor is decriminalized, so your next door neighbor, the guy in the door next to you is smoking, or the one in the floor above, or the floor below is smoking. You have your children, you yourself may have, certain problems that this thing aggravates, or your mother or somebody else. Do you know how, this may be above your pay grade, but this is a major concern of mine. You may say they could do it in private, but when you live in public housing, how private is private? Could you just give me your ideas on that one? Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Yes, caller. Well, with it being decriminalized, there isn't anything much the police can do, right? Unless that person may have in their possession a larger quantity than what is decriminalized. The decriminalization may be 20 grams, 30 grams, 60 grams. And that person may be smoking it in their property, and they're waiting. If they have a pound, then the police can come in. As a matter of fact, the person may be able to smoke it, and they cannot control where the wind or where the breeze might take it and go with it. But there is nothing wrong in having a conversation with your neighbor. There is nothing wrong in telling him about it, and you might surprise that they may be willing and understanding of you and your situation and your concern, and they may find an alternative place to go and smoke their marijuana. Or they might choose to smoke it when the kids are at school, and so on and so forth. Right? In the event that neighbor of yours is a violent person or a hostile person, then you can seek speaking to someone else. Speaking to a community leader, speak, I guess, as much whenever they have these housing projects and them. One of the things I know that the housing authority and so on usually advocates is having these councils. So sometimes these councils will set up, and they may put certain rules and certain things in place that each apartment owner and so on have to live by and regulate by, and maybe that might be one of the things they can look at before they move in. Let's say the housing project in St. David's, everyone can sign up to an agreement and say, okay, no burning after 6 p.m. or maybe consumption of marijuana, no consumption of marijuana or smoking marijuana on the compound during the hours after school is out, and so forth. Is discussions which can be have.
Okay, we do have another caller. We tentatively lost that caller. An apology for that. 4352041 4352041. If you do have a question or two you may like to ask, of course, Inspector Forsyth, feel to do so. We just have approximately 4 minutes or so left on today's program. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning. I was of the opinion that when we talked about marijuana being decriminalized, I thought it was for medicinal uses. I didn't realize that it was all going to be okay to smoke it. That's one. The other thing, just as how in a public place you can't smoke cigarette anywhere, shouldn't it be that, okay, you can't do the same with marijuana?
Okay, caller, thank you. Let the inspector, of course, respond. Any response to the caller?
Yes. First of all, caller, I would like to say the actual policy as it relates to the decriminalization of marijuana, as far as my knowledge permits me, it has not been drafted or completed as yet. So exactly what conditions and so on that would be written in it, that is not known. right, as it relates to whether it's for smoking or whether it's for other purposes, right? Maybe the drafting of that marijuana policy, decriminalization policy, may have marijuana for personal use or recreational use, recreational marijuana. So recreational marijuana is a broad term, so persons may choose to smoke it, some may choose to bake it in cake, some may choose to make fudge. So until we really see that policy as it relates to the decriminalization of marijuana and what that policy entails, then we'll be able to know what persons can do with it, whether they can have 60 or 30 grams, whether you will be allowed to have 4 marijuana plants in your backyard. You know, and as the caller was mentioning, as it relates to the housing projects, like in St. David's, how would one determine who backyard that belong to? You know, so until that policy comes into effect, until it is drafted and so on and passed by the cabinet and so on, it comes out, then we'll be able to know exactly what one can do and what cannot do as it relates to marijuana.
All right. Inspector Forsyth, we're getting to where we get to take a wrap for today's program. Anything in closing? Of course, I know we did speak a whole lot, and I certainly hope the listening and viewing public did understand a whole lot in some of the, and what you mentioned in terms of the controlled drugs, the penalties, and so forth that we've spoken about. Anything in closing you'd like to say?
Yes, definitely. In closing, I want to thank the general public wholeheartedly on behalf of the officer in charge of Junk Squad, all the members of the Royal Grenada Police Force and the Drug Squad, for the confidence the public continues to have in us as a team, as a unit, the Drug Squad. Because without the public's involvement, the successes that we see, that we experience, we cannot experience it without them. As a matter of fact, when you compare our statistics for this period right now in comparison to 2023 and 2022, we have already surpassed the amount of seizures. And that is a result of the confidence in which the public have in us as the Drug Squad. I want to let the persons who are involved in the illicit drug trade and drug smuggling trade, to let them know and to put them on notice that we in the Drug Squad will be relentless in our effort to dismantle and disrupt those criminal organizations. We are no longer 2 footsteps behind them, but right now we are actually on the heels. We are on the heels in dealing with the drug situation. Right? In final wrap-up, I just want to remind the nation that the gun amnesty or the firearm amnesty is in full swing. There's a 90-day amnesty. I'm encouraging persons to bring in those illegal firearms, to bring in those ammunitions and so on. If one is fearful, then you can turn it into your lawyer, or you can turn it into maybe a leader in the community, someone you have confidence in. You can turn it into them, and they in turn can turn it into the police force. I just want to say also thank you to all members of the Royal Grenada Police Drug Squad, to the team that we have. It's a highly motivated team of men and women, and all the best to Grenada for the carnival coming up.
Oh, all right. Thank you once again, Inspector Forsyth, for sharing information, and certainly information that we can all concur with. Once again, folks, thanks for being with us this morning here on the program. Join us again for another edition that will be tomorrow, once the Almighty permits. Have yourself a great day, folks. That's where I say goodbye for this edition of To The Point. Goodbye, folks.